Hello friends, welcome to UPSC Logics, and in this video we shall have a look at the legislative procedures in the parliament. So we shall have a look at the ordinary bills and the procedure that is followed in the parliament to pass ordinary bills. So without wasting any time, let's begin. So before we have a look at the ordinary bills, let us understand what a bill is. A bill is a proposal for legislation, and once passed, it becomes an act or a law and is enacted throughout the nation. So the procedure that has been set for the bills or the passage of bills is same for both of the houses of the parliament, and each bill has to pass through the same stages. And the bills have been divided into four kind of bills. These are ordinary bills, then there are money bills, then there are financial bills, and there are constitutional amendment bills. So the process for each kind of bill is different, and it has already been written in the rule book, like how these bills can be passed. So we shall have a look at the ordinary bills in this particular lecture. And before we go ahead and have a look what ordinary bills are about, the bills can be divided into further two kinds. These are public bills and private bills. So public bills are basically known as government bills, and private bills are private member bills. So although both the bills, the public bills and private bills, are governed by the same procedure, but can have different consequences if they are passed or fail. So let us have a look at what is the difference between a public bill and a private bill before we have a look at the ordinary bills. So let us understand the difference between public and private bills. Let us have a look at the public bill or the government bill first, and it can be only introduced by in the parliament by a minister. Then it reflects the policies of the government. It has a greater chance of being approved since the government is formed by the party of the ministers, so chances of it getting approved are much more. Then the rejection by the House amounts to expression or want of parliamentary confidence in the government and may lead to its resignation. So in case a public bill or a government bill which has been introduced into the parliament gets rejected, it means that the faith or confidence in the government is not no longer there, and a vote of no confidence can be floated against the government, in which case the government may have to resign as well. Its introduction in the House requires 7 days, so a public or a government bill needs a notice of 7 days before being introduced, and it is drafted by the concerned department with consultation of the law department. So this is depending on what department the particular minister belongs to and what department the bill is related to. It is drafted by that particular department, and the law department is consulted. Let us have a look at the private bill, also known as private member bill. It can be introduced by any member of parliament who is not a minister. Then it generally reflects the stand of the opposition party. And these particular bills, until and unless they are depend on a matter of urgent or extreme public importance, have a less chance of being approved. And once it is rejected, it does not reflect anything on the parliamentary confidence, and the government need not resign. In fact, there is no question of no confidence motion as well, so there is no effect on the government. And to introduce this particular private member bill, the member of parliament needs to give a 1 month notice period, and the drafting of this particular bill is the responsibility of the member concerned. So you can imagine that this particular member will have to go through a lot of planning and consultation before he can actually draft the bill. So before we move on, let us just have a quick look at the categories of the bill. There are four categories, as I told you before. There are ordinary bills. These are bills that are not concerned with any kind of financial subjects, and all the matters that do not fall under the financial headings come under the ordinary bills. Then there are money bills, and these are concerned with financial matters like taxation, public expenditure, etc. Then there are financial bills. These are also concerned with financial matters but are different from the money bills. And then there are the constitutional amendment bills. So these are concerned with the amendments of the provisions of the constitution. So the process of introduction and passage for each of these kind of bills is different. So we shall have a look at these particular bills in different videos. For now we are just having a look at the ordinary bills. So what is an ordinary bill? An ordinary bill is a bill that does not concern any kind of financial issues. This kind of a bill can be introduced either in the Rajya Sabha or the Lok Sabha and can be introduced by the private member or the minister. Of course, when it is being introduced by a private member, it needs 1 month's notice period. And if it is being introduced by a minister, it just needs 7 days, but that is just a technicality. Then an ordinary bill has to go through 5 stages, and once it crosses all the 5 stages, it finds its place in the rule book and is enacted. So these 5 stages are the first reading, then there is the second reading, then there is the third reading, then there is the bill in the second house, and assent of the president. So once the ordinary bill goes through all these 5 stages, it becomes an act. Let us understand what the first reading stage is. So now we know that the ordinary bill can be introduced either in the Rajya Sabha or the Lok Sabha, and it can be introduced by a minister or a private member. So to introduce this particular bill, the member has to ask for a leave of the House. And on being granted the leave of the House, the mover of the bill reads out the titles and objectives of the bills, and no kind of discussion takes place at this stage. This is just an introduction stage, so just the title and objectives of the bill, what the bill intends to do, is read out in the parliament, and then the bill goes and gets published in the Gazette of India. So there may be a possibility that the bill has already been published in the Gazette of India in case it is being introduced by a minister. So sometimes it happens that the bill is already published in the Gazette of India, and in this particular case the minister does not need to seek leave of the House to introduce the bill. So what is the first reading? This introduction of the bill, in which the title and objectives are read, and the publication in the Gazette of India, forms the first reading of an ordinary bill. The second reading stage is the most important stage in the passage of any bill, because this is the stage when all the finer points of this particular bill are discussed in the parliament or are discussed by the select committee or the joint committee. So and any other amendments that are supposed to be made into this particular bill are actually made. So this particular second reading stage involves three more stages. These are stages of general discussion, then there is a committee stage and the consideration stage. So let us have a look at the stage of general discussion. So in this particular stage, the printed copies of the bill are distributed to the members and a general discussion on the bill takes place, and no details are discussed. So no details are discussed of the bill. The House can take 4 actions. So it can take up the bill for consideration immediately, so they do not feel the need to scrutinize the bill further. Then they can refer the bill to a select committee. So a select committee is just a committee made from members of that particular house, and it can refer the bill to a joint committee as well. So a joint committee is again consists of members of both the houses of the parliament, or it can circulate the bill to elicit public opinion. So it can send the bill or publish it in newspapers to understand what the public thinks about the bill. Then the next stage is the committee stage. So the bill can be either sent to a select committee or a joint committee. Now this particular committee, it examines the bill in details and it has got the power to amend the bill as well. However, it cannot change the basic principle of the bills. So once it has done that, it has made all the changes and scrutinized it in detail, it will send the bill back to the House. Once the bill comes back to the House, the bill comes to the consideration stage, and now the bill is discussed clause by clause. So every clause is discussed upon and voted upon in the House. and any amendments that I can want to that the members want to introduce at this stage are introduced and they become a part of the bill if they are accepted. After the second stage comes the third stage or the third reading stage. And in this particular stage, the debate is just confined to the voting on the exception and the rejection of the bill. So in this stage, no amendments or any kind of changes are allowed since the bill has already been scrutinized during the second stage. And if the majority of members who are present and voting pass the bill is considered to be passed in the House. And once the bill is passed in a particular house in which it was introduced, it is sent to the second house for approval. And once it is passed by both the houses with or without amendments, it is considered to be passed by both the houses and then it goes to the president for final approval. So after the third reading stage, the bill goes to the second house and in the second house also the bill has to go through all the three reading stages and the second house has got four options. Number one is it may pass the bill as sent by the first house, that is without amendments. Number two is it may pass the bill with amendments and return it to the first house for reconsideration. Then number three is it may reject the bill altogether. And number four is it may not take any action and keep it pending. So different situations and different outcomes. So let us have a look at what the outcomes are. So once the bill comes back from the second house and the second house actually can take four actions on the particular bill and different situations arise out of the four actions which the second house takes. So suppose the second house passes the bill without amendments and in the first house it has already been passed. So it is not applicable and it passes and it is sent to the president. The second house passes the particular bill with amendments and the second house accepts the amendment or the first house accepts the amendment in which the bill has been originated. The situation is considered to be passed and it is sent to the president. The second house passes with amendments and the first house rejects the amendment. So in this case, a deadlock situation is created. Then the second house rejects the bill altogether. In this particular case, again, a deadlock situation is created and it does not take any action on the bill for at least 6 months or more. So again, a deadlock situation is created. And in case of a deadlock situation, a joint sitting of both the houses is called by the president, and if the members who are present and voting in the joint sitting approve the bill is considered to be passed. And one thing that is important to remember in this particular case that once the joint sitting has been called by the president, no action can be taken by any of the houses in regards to that particular bill. The fifth stage in the passage of an ordinary bill is the assent of the president. So once the bill has been passed by both the houses through a situation of deadlock or a joint sitting, so it goes to the president and the president may take three courses of action and he may give his assent to the bill, in which case it becomes an act and is placed in the rule book. Then he may withhold his assent on the bill and the bill ends and it does not become an act, and this is in the case of ordinary bill. He returns the bill for reconsideration, so the bill is passed again with or without amendments and presented to the president, and in this case the president has to give his assent. So this particular power of the president is called suspensive veto, which means that he can resend the ordinary bill back only once, and in case the bill comes back to him with or without amendments, he has to pass it. So friends, this was some information about the passage of ordinary bills, and I hope you have enjoyed this video and understood how an ordinary bill is passed. So thank you so much for watching and Jai Hind.